Hey everybody, my name is Danielle and this is Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. So welcome or welcome back. I wanted to share an update on Big Brother Season 24, BB24. So if you're interested, keep listening. All right, BB fam, this will be quick because I really only have a couple of updates, right, on the HOH and the veto winner, and then a few thoughts I like to share. So first, I'll start with the last episode aired on TV, the live eviction episode, where they continued the story. Remember, it was like a to be continued with Kyle and his racial biases. What we saw was that Kyle went from initially defending himself to denying it for a short period of time, to admitting it in the house meeting, to an apology tour, and then asking the Black house guests or people of color, asking them for advice on how he can move forward. In my opinion, I don't think Kyle's apology can be 100% sincere because I really don't think he understands why what he did in the game is viewed as problematic. And until he understands that, he doesn't know what he's apologizing for, right? As many have said online, he has an entire fan base supporting him, telling him he did nothing wrong. He doesn't know this yet, but he'll see it when he gets out of the house on IG and Facebook, right? All of these people, family, friends, fan base are saying, Kyle, you did nothing wrong. And they're blaming Michael and Brittany. And I suspect that after he's out of the house, he's around all of this and reads all of this and around his family and friends, they'll all be telling him he did nothing wrong. He'll 100% go back to the Kyle we saw when he was putting together this plan, right? He'll abandon all of this. Oh, I want to be educated. I want to learn. I want to grow. He'll completely abandon that, I believe. And he'll abandon, like I said, trying to educate himself. And it will be something of the past for him. I think in all of that, once he gets around people making him feel comfortable and telling him he did nothing wrong, right, he'll begin to be a little angry about it, right, and resentful that how dare they make me feel this way? I didn't do anything wrong. And that'll just be enough for him to stay in the mindset that he's in now, and he'll never grow. And nothing will never change. Will ever change, I should say. So that's what I feel. I don't have a crystal ball. Well, I don't know for sure. I don't know Kyle's heart. But this is just based on my experience in the world and seeing this outside of the Big Brother game. I see this a lot in life. And I think nothing will change. As for Michael and Brittany, I feel the same in that they are trying to convince themselves, right, that what they did was morally the right thing to do. They aren't taking accountability. They keep trying to convince themselves like, that's not the game I want to play. We all know it's BS, right? And what they did in weaponizing Kyle's racial biases was equally as bad. And I want to remind people, and I have to find this on the feeds, but I am almost certain when Kyle initially spoke to Michael and Brittany on the hammock about this plan, they continued their conversation. They were enthused about it, number one, and they continued, meaning Michael and Brittany continued that conversation at the washer and dryer, and they were excited about the plan. Only until the DR tipped them off did they worry about the optics of it all, right? So I don't believe Michael and Brittany. I don't believe them either with regard to them trying to stand up for what's right. I don't believe that this wasn't the game they wanted to play. I don't believe any of that. Right? I think it was something that was weaponized. They used it as a game move. Michael, yes, but they used it as a game move because Michael felt his game was being threatened. And I think they are complicit. I'm not bothered by the edit that they got on Eviction Night's episode, which, by the way, that edit was a little softer on Kyle than it was on Michael and Brittany, but I'm not bothered about that. Really, I'm not. I think they could have shown, meaning production, they could have shown additional thoughts and the words that Kyle spoke and how early. Like I saw them show the day 30 something. But they really have to put things in context and spell things out because what I often said when when talking about Kyle and this plan and his thoughts about the Cookout 2.0, this was very early in the game, right? Later on, did we hear him talk about like the silent majority, which I thought that was important to show on the episode, which they did not. But Kyle's thoughts were early on in the game. He was in an alliance that was true. The Monty and Taylor was true to that alliance. So I wish they did a better job at just emphasizing how early on Kyle had it in his head that the black people of color, and Indy were coming together to create this Cookout 2.0. It was early on. It was not a reaction to anything that the black people were doing or showing or how they were playing their game. It was not in response to that. And it almost left room for there to be a belief that Kyle only came up with this plan as a reaction to fill in the blank. There is nothing to fill in the blank because it wasn't a reaction. Kyle thought this, had this going in, which is part of the problem. But anyway, I don't want to go on a long rant about that. The only other thing I would like to say is that what makes it worse is that, I just said this, that Kyle was in an alliance with people who were true to the alliance. And it's just unfortunate. It's not surprising, but it's just unfortunate. And please, can we stop referring to Kyle as a kid? This is a grown man. He's almost 30 years old. He's not a kid. And I'm tired of this tactic as referring to Kyle as a kid being used, because excuse me, all it does is allow room for his supporters and his fan base to say and think, oh, well, he doesn't know any better. He's young. If we have a fan base of Kyle's even believing that he did anything wrong. But it's just leaving room for people to say, oh, he's so young. He didn't know any better. No, he's not young. He's 30 years old, right? That's 3 decades. He's not a kid. And I want people to stop trying to use this as a tactic to give him grace. Now, granted, God grants me grace every day. I'm not above granting Kyle grace, but let's be clear. The fact is, Kyle is a grown man who is 30 years old. He's not a kid. So let's stop with that. And truth be told, I still believe Kyle knew what he was saying and doing all along. I just feel it in my spirit. That's what I feel. That's what I know. All right. I have another note I made that I don't have any doubt in my mind that Michael and Brittany 100% weaponized Kyle's words and his racial bias in the game to their advantage. It was a game move. No one is going to convince me otherwise. Michael even said it on the feeds, and we know it was in response to his game being threatened. Because remember, he said, you can try to take me down, but if I go down, I'm going to take you down too. And then he was saying, where's your white alliance now? Remember that? It was a calculated move. They'll just have to accept that America sees it as a calculated move, as them weaponizing Kyle's racial bias to their favor, to their advantage. It was a game move. We're not dumb. And I do feel they need to be held equally as accountable as Kyle. All right. In the eviction episode, we also saw Terrence as he expressed his thoughts out loud about his choice to send Joseph home over Kyle. I strongly believe his gut was telling him all along that Joseph wasn't the right move. Remember, he was talking to his wife on the feeds and saying he needs her help. And he talked out loud about trying to reconcile the move he was going to make right before he made it. I think Terrence knew all along it wasn't a good move. I think he felt that in his gut. But he doubted himself. And you know why he was doubted? Because he was manipulated into thinking he was part of an alliance. And do you know how he was so easily manipulated? Because Terrence, his whole game have shown that he is so desperate to be in an alliance and start winning, right? Everyone he's attached to in the game have been tragic for Terrence's game. Let me repeat that. or say that a little bit better. Everyone that Terrence has attached himself as an ally in the game, right, have been terrible for Terrence's game. Example, Daniel, Nicole, and now Kyle, right? And Terrence is upset about this, right, in the game. He keeps taking it out on Taylor, who he's never liked for no reason. But I think that's more so of the misogyny and I don't want to get in a Terrence rant again. If you want to hear what I think about Terrence, because it's still present tense, I still think this about him, just look at my episode that has the mini rant in the thumbnail. All right, let me move along. Okay, so a couple of spoiler alerts. Michael is the new HOH. He nominated Terrence and Alyssa. Late last night, they finished the veto competition, which was the BB Comics, and Michael won the power of veto. I suspect that he'll keep the nominations the same. He also has expressed that he plans to use his veto speech as an opportunity to combat Terrence's efforts in tainting the jury against him. See, after the nominations, Terrence threatened Michael. He had this whole long one-on-one with Michael, and he threatened Michael in the context of the game I'm talking about. But he threatened Michael that he'll turn the jury against him, using the fact that both he and Brittany used Kyle's biases as gameplay and how calculated it was. And he'll share that with the jury, and also share that they are no better than Kyle. I laughed when I heard Terrence say this, because number one, in my opinion, what we've seen in this game, in Terrence's game specifically, Terrence has no social capital. He can't influence anyone. He talks a lot of crap, but at the end of the day, he has not influenced the game in the slightest. He's just been reacting to what's happening in the game and playing like a game of survival, right? He just reacts, right? That's why I say he flows whichever way the wind blows, right? Because whatever happens, whoever's in power, there he tries to land, And so him saying that he's going to go taint the jury, you have no social capital in the game, Terrence. Who are you going to influence? You haven't been able to influence anyone yet, right? And the second reason I laughed is because Terrence, and maybe he'll learn this after he goes back and watches the season. I hope he learns that he didn't have to taint an already tainted jury, right? Michael was doing this all on his own. And Michael can only win this game if he's sitting next to Brittany. I just wanted to repeat that. Another note, they also had the Zingbot visit, and maybe they will show this in Sunday night's episode. The few notes I made about Zingbot were, the first note was that Taylor's had to do with her being cold-hearted. Brittany's had to do with her crazy eyes, because she said something about, imagine learning that you have crazy eyes or something like that. And I don't think she was happy about that from what it sounds like. And Alyssa's zing made Alyssa very upset, because hers played into her being slow and not too bright. So much so that Zingbot repeated his zing to her twice. Only because he thought, oh, she won't get the first time. She won't get it the first time. I also have a note about BB Comics. And I find that there was a little shade on production's part. Brittany's comic was apparently about Brit Flea. Or something like that, like Brit Flea, right? Combining the words of Brittany and Flea. And it was kind of insinuating that she's a leech and surviving in the game on Michael's neck. Get it? A flea. That's funny. And then Kyle's comic was apparently called Reptile Kyle Function, or Kyle Reptile Dysfunction. Kyle apparently was a reptile in this comic, and his slogan on the comic included reptile and dysfunction. I can't remember the wording. And when I heard them talk about this on the feeds, I thought, oh my God, production is so shady. Clearly, they are alluding to Kyle's own admission in his 10 seconds with Alyssa, right? Remember, he was saying, I love having sex with you, even though I last 10 seconds. I cannot. And for a family show that they claim to be Big Brother, right? We've now seen mushrooms and getting high in a competition. Remember when they was zoning out and they had them do all these takes in that little tent with the psychedelics behind them, implying that they were on mushrooms. So we've seen that in the competition. We've seen production force this romance between Kyle and Alyssa, right? And now we're seeing the comics with this Kyle reptile dysfunction. The shade of it all. All right. There continues to be crap talked about Taylor on a personal level, not at a game level. And this is happening again by Monty and Terrence and Brittany. It's old. It's tired. And at this point, I want them to just come up with something original. And I'll repeat what I've said in other recaps and share my opinion of Taylor not having any relationship with any of these people after the game is over. For now, I hope she just keeps up her good social game she's building. Keep competing well. And yes, I said keep competing well because from what it sounds like, she came in second with the BB Comics competition. And we all know as fans that BB Comics is a combination of endurance, memory, and you have to be paying attention to the game and the days and the order of things, right? And she won that wall comp, which is an endurance competition. So despite what others say online or their dislike for Taylor, she is paying attention in the game, meaning like the days. She is a physical threat because, again, if she came in second with that BB Comics and she won that wall comp, that shows she's physically competitive, right? And her memory isn't bad. So Taylor is playing the game. I think she's upped her social game. And we'll see. We'll see where this lands her. So let's end this with the spoilers on the HOH and veto. I'll repeat it again. Michael is this week's HOH and he nominated Terrence and Alyssa. Michael is this week's veto holder. As of now, he plans on keeping the nominations the same. However, he does plan to use the veto speech as an opportunity to play offense against Terrence, because I told you earlier that Terrence has threatened Michael in the context of the game, that is. He's threatened Michael to taint the jury against Michael. And I think that I'm not sure how you can taint a jury that's already been tainted. Michael is doing this all on his own. But Terrence, you go ahead and play your game. You do you. And looking at the end game, if Michael makes it to the end, the only way Michael wins is to have Brittany next to him. Right? Anyone else, Michael loses. You have to let me know what you think about that. And that's all I have. I tried to make it short and sweet. All right. I'd love for you to like, share, follow, and subscribe, all of which will help my channel grow. So thank you in advance. All right. My name is Danielle. You're listening to Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.